Hey, what's up everybody? It's Axel, and today we're checking out something different. Today we're talking about the FiiO RR11. This is a portable stereo radio receiver and a DAC amp combo from FiiO, priced around $59. It's a radio, but also works as a DAC amp and even has a bass boost and a 3D mode. Sounds interesting, right? I've got a black version here. It comes in 4 colors, and we'll go over what comes in the box, the build quality, the radio sound, the amp mode, and the overall sound quality. So let's start. Begin. What comes in the box? All right, inside the box here, you get actually something interesting. You get 2 USB cables. One is a standard USB-A to Type-C, which is like for charging, normally. And then you get this special USB-C to Type-C cable. And I say it's special because this is not a regular USB-C cable. It has a built-in DAC inside, and this is necessary for you to use the RR11 as a DAC amp, right? So make sure you never lose this one, because if you kind of lose it, you're kind of out of luck for using the RR11 as a DAC amp mode. So this is very important, and I'll talk about that later. You do get a quick start guide, and you do get a set of earbuds, some foam covers for the earbuds. And of course, you do get the RR11 itself. About the earbuds, about how they sound and stuff, I think they sound fine. They do have some decent bass, but out of the box, they were a bit shouty for me, a bit bright leaning. I didn't like them without foam, but with foam covers, they significantly improved. The bass started to increase, the treble is a lot smoother and tamer, and even the upper mid-range started to be tamer as well and not shouty. There's still a sense of bite, which you can hear with like acoustic guitars and stuff like that, but overall they sound good with foam. So if you have these, make sure you try it out with the foam. Overall, I didn't use them much because I'm not really an earbud guy. And let's talk about the RR11. First impressions, this thing is solid. It feels solid. It's lightweight. It has a small form factor, and the overall build is made out of this lightweight aluminum chassis, which makes it feel light in the hand. It's super portable. It's easy to pocket. The ergonomics are great, and when you hold it, this is something that I like about FiiO's devices. You can always feel that there's some thought going on behind the design process. If you hold this, notice this groove right here, or indentation, which means that when you hold it, your finger, isn't accidentally going to, touch the tuning wheel, which is a nice touch. Overall, also, your fingers aren't going to accidentally raise the volume or touch any buttons or anything like that. So I think this is kind of nice. On the front, right here, as you can see, we have the FM stations. We have this tuning indicator, the orange indicator that moves. We have the battery levels. When you turn it on, you can see that. And we have here this signal indicator. Like if this one lights up, that means you're locked in on a radio station. This one as well. And I will show it in a second. The light is soft orange. Let me show you guys. It's lighting right now, as you can see. And when you reach or lock in a radio station, this light will stay on along with this light. That means you got a good signal and it's logged in already. On the right side, right here, we have the magic bass toggle. We have off, and then we have level 1, which is a bass boost, and then you have level 2, which is bass boost and 3D surround sound. And then you get the amp mode, to switch between amp mode and FM mode. And on the left side, we have FM 1, 2, and 3. We can toggle between them. And on the bottom, we have the USB-C charging port. It can accept up to 5 volts, 2 amps. And on the top, we have the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, as well as the metal volume knob that also turns the device on and off. Overall, I think the device is very compact. It's small. It's actually like 2 fingers. It's well built. It's functional. It's something that you can hold in the hand, carry it in your pocket. It really does the job well from a build quality and portability standpoint. So what about the battery life? I have to admit, I didn't really measure the whole battery life, because this thing has a very long battery life. I will just tell you, I used it in amp mode. And after 4 hours, you can see here, this is 25% battery. Here is 50, here's 75, here's 100. After 4 hours, it didn't even lose 1 battery bar. So I'm not going to, keep measuring the battery life more than that. I'll just say, according to the FiiO's website, can last over 17.5 hours in amp mode and over 8 hours in radio mode. And yes, you can use it while charging. Now, this thing came with this cover, which you can use like here to protect it, and it kind of give it a nice look. And then you have this, holder right here, which you can use and connect to something like a lanyard like this one in order to carry it with you anywhere you go. So that's kind of nice in that way. Now let's talk about the radio function, which is the RR11's main purpose in my personal opinion. This thing has or uses two antennas. First of all, it will use your headphone cable as an antenna, right? And then it has an internal antenna right here on the left side, which acts like, a signal amplifier, and it gives you like better reception, gain and stuff like that, so that the reception and the quality is stable and strong. And this is something I noticed as well. Like the signal is like super strong, super clear. There's no dropouts whatsoever anywhere. I used it indoors, outdoors. I never felt I needed to go outdoors to improve the signal reception or signal integrity or anything like that. It's always super stable. And the stations are easy to use. You just toggle between FM 1, 2, and 3, and you just, reach the station that you like, and, you have a lot of stations. But if you listen to FM radio, I think this thing is amazing. Now, another thing is that, as I said, it uses your headphone cable as an antenna. If you guys remember when we had smartphones that had headphone jacks, if you remember that, yeah, this thing is kind of similar. Remember when we had that phone and you try to use the radio and it says, please insert, an earphone or earbud, something like that, because it uses the cable as an antenna. This is kind of similar situation here, and without an earphone inserted into the 3.5 millimeter, radio is not going to work. It's not going to pick up any stations. So it uses both antennas to give you that radio receiver function. So how does it sound when I used it, as a radio receiver? Before I describe that, I just want to say, keep in mind, FM broadcasts are compressed, so you won't get the same sound quality you get, for example, something like FLAC files or Spotify or high bitrate MP3s. But it still sounded good. For me, when using it as a radio receiver, I will say the main highlight for me was the clear mid-range. It definitely has a very clear mid-range, and the vocals are the highlight. So if you're listening to podcasts or stuff like that, it will definitely impress you. It really sounds great, detailed, no buzz, no hiss, no, any annoying distortions or anything like that. Bass and treble, in my opinion, do take a slight backseat to the vocals or the mid-range. They support the sound, but they don't stand out. Obviously there is some loss when you listen to an FM broadcast. There is compression, so you definitely lose some of the ultra high frequencies and even the low end. You can fix that low end thing by adding the bass toggle. I think this is one of the reasons they added a bass toggle here, to kind of helps with some of the loss that comes with FM broadcasts, and it works. Speaking of which, the Mega Bass, or actually they call it the Magic Bass, you do have two modes. Like I said, you have off, which is the normal, and then you have the bass boost level 1, which roughly adds up around 2 dB boost, which I'm going to show you. And what it sounds to me is it makes the sound a bit warmer, adds actually a very noticeable and enjoyable sense of body and impact. There is a bass slam that increases with IMs, and there's, a punchier sound. The sound become a bit warmer, like I said, a bit thicker. So I'm not sure if everyone is going to like that. It adds a warmer tone to the tonality, and the vocals don't stand out that much because of that bass boost. Now, when you move it to level 2, they say you get the 3D surround effect plus the bass boost. So it's not just the 3D surround. For me, for my ears, it sounded identical to the bass boost. I couldn't hear that 3D surround effect. So I'm not saying it's not there. Maybe it's there. I tested with a few IMs. I just couldn't hear the difference. So maybe it's a subtle difference. If it's there, I couldn't hear it. I heard it as a bass boost, same as level 1. So, your mileage may vary. That's the kind of thing I want to say. And I will show you on the graph. Let's look at the graph. I measured the effect with the Performer 7 or the Performer 5 Plus 2 from Awful. And as you can see, if I showed you like the bass boost level 1, you can see there is like roughly around the 2 dB bass boost starting from the sub bass region and goes very strong up to 300 hertz and starts to taper off after 300 hertz. So that is what makes the bass sometimes appear as a bit boomy. Sometimes it covers some of those small nuances, or at least you feel the vocals start to not stand out as much, when it comes to that bass boost level 1. And if I showed you the level 2, you can see it actually roughly is identical to level 1. And this actually matches my experience. Overall, I think the bass boost is fun. The bass boost is fun. The sense of slam definitely increases. And you can hear the music become a lot more fun, though it's not as clear as it was with the bass toggle off. So you can experiment with it, see the one you like and the one you don't like. You're probably going to use this with radio because it definitely, adds some of that missing low-end content when it comes to radio use. When you use it as a DAC amp, I think it kind of enhances that sound. But if you have an IM that has a good amount of bass, maybe you will not need it that much. And another thing you notice is the upper mid-range and the treble starts to slightly reduce. And maybe some people could use that, maybe if you have an IM that sounds a bit, energetic when it comes to the upper mid-range and treble, maybe this could come in handy for you, could take some of the edge off. Let's talk about the DAC amp mode. Now, here's where things get tricky. When I first tried it with this cable, it didn't work, right? And then I removed it and flipped the cable and inserted it again, and it, voila, it worked. So what happened here? I realized that this cable, this USB cable, is directional, right? This is directional cable. And basically that means that one side has the DAC. I'm not sure which is which, but I will tell you how it works. As you can see, the USB-C here, one side is longer than the other. And the longer one, you should insert the longer one into your phone, and the shorter side goes to the RR11. If you forget, try to remember it like this. The RR11 is the smaller device. It's smaller than your phone, so it takes the smaller or shorter side of the USB-C cable, and the bigger one goes to your phone. And when I did that, it worked instantly, connected with both and tested with my phone and PC. So how does it sound as a DAC amp? I will say the output impedance first is below 1 ohm, so we don't get any coloration. You don't get any distortion or anything like that. Just on the mid-range and the treble more than the bass. The bass is there, it's decent, but it's not going to wow you with the impact or, the texture or anything like that. Level of detail is good. I would describe it as average. It's not bad, but it's not super detailed. Power is enough for most IMs, but it's not a powerhouse. It's not going... I could max it out if I want to, but again, it was really loud when I did that, but there is a small amount of headroom, let's say that. And overall, I will describe the sound here as decent. It's not super impressive as a DAC amp. Like for me, I would say like there are better options out there, in my opinion. Even from FiiO itself, I will show you right now, I think there are a lot better options when it comes to using it as a DAC amp. It definitely works. It sounds good. It sounds decent. But in my opinion, just my opinion, if you're buying this as a DAC amp only, or this is the main use you're going to use it for, I highly, highly recommend you check out the Snow Sky Retro Nano. You get more features. You get better detail, better sound quality, better imaging stage, and more power and a display screen and EQ options and a lot, even a balanced output. You get a lot more features. And you can use it wireless as well. Or even if you want just a dongle, I honestly, if you just want to use it as a dongle, I recommend something like the FiiO K11. In my opinion, there's a significant difference in sound quality just between those two. And it's kind of like interesting because this is close to the size of this cable, right? They're roughly close in terms of size, but there is a big difference between them in terms of sound quality, significant difference, right? In terms of imaging, stage, how nuanced the level of detail is. Like, yes, there is a significant difference. It's not a small difference. So for me, I will say it like this. I'll say the RR11's amp section or DAC amp section is a bonus. It's not the main feature. It's cool that it's there, right? And it kind of like works as an add-on. Like one day could come in handy, right? You could use it. It's nice to know that it's there and you're getting it for the same price. I think that's awesome. And you get the bass, functions and stuff like that. That's nice. But if you really want a high quality DAC amp performance, you're focused on, you know, sound quality, you want better fidelity, better performance, really something that will maximize, you know, the potential you get out of your IAMs, I suggest something like this or something like the Retro Nano, which in my opinion will give you much better sound quality. So let's talk about the final verdict. Like, do I recommend this? What's the deal with the FiiO RR11? Is it worth it? I think this device does what it promises to do, and it does it well, and it definitely gets a recommendation for me. It's a great portable FM radio stereo receiver, right? And it does that very well. It's excellent, right? Build quality is amazing, right? The radio reception is excellent. It has a lot of stations. Battery life is long. The bass boost is fun. You can tune it. You can use it. The battery life lasts a long time, you know. The toggle is great. The build quality is great. Everything it does here as a radio, you know, receiver is perfect. And I give it a thumbs up for that. As a DAC amp, I think of it as a nice extra. It's not the main strength of something like this. And if you're really looking for a dedicated DAC amp, I recommend you check out the Retro Nano or the K11 instead. But I think for radio lovers, this thing is awesome. And people who want something compact, something well built with additional nice audio features, I highly recommend the FiiO RR11 for that. And that wraps up my review of the FiiO RR11. If you found this review helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Would you pick this one up? And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.